They call it the mob mentality, mind on ball. And if Kansas State wants to keep living by that, well, then Texas Tech might finally get punched in the mouth.
You are Locked On Kansas State, your daily podcast on the Kansas State Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Kansas State, your daily Kansas State Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Christian Rao, and thank you so much for making Locked On Kansas State your first listen every single day. Welcome back to my everydayers. We are almost to game day. Saturday is going to be an epic game. I'm excited for it. Will the upset happen? Well, we're going to dive into that on today's episode. Pretty defensive heavy on this one. I do think this is going to be a really big game for sure. Probably should put the right background up. So let's do that right now. Mob mentality. What's it like? What are we going to do to get that win? Because I think the defense is 100% the reason. If Kansas State wants to get the upset, that's where it has to be. The defensive line depth, proving that it's legit. And from liability to lockdown. What do you think I'm talking about that? That's right, the secondary. We do that all here on this episode. Hit subscribe if you want to keep Kansas State bringing you coverage like no one else right here on Locked On Kansas State, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. The Wildcats lead the country in takeaways. That has been one of the things that they've discussed over and over again this week, kind of talking about, hey, this Kansas State defense isn't as bad as the national media likes to see. They see a 4-4 record. A lot of people are really counting out Kansas State. They're saying, oh, there's no way they can make it to the Big 12 championship. Look at BYU. Look at Cincinnati. Look at Texas Tech. Look at Houston. There's just no way it could happen. There is. Statistically, there absolutely is. It starts this week against Texas Tech. But the fact that the Wildcats lead the country in takeaways is no accident. Both Chris Klieman and Joe Klanderman spoke to the media on Thursday when the coordinators did discuss their thoughts about the game. They both hammered this point that turnovers aren't luck by any stretch of the imagination. Maybe if you're lucky with a rainy day, one falls out of say a Jalen Daniels hand, then maybe that happens. But they are a lifestyle. Chris Klieman said it straight. He said, quote, our kids hold each other accountable. If you're not stripping in practice, they're on your tail. And this was more of a conversation when he was discussing the linebacking core and how that leadership's really pushed on Monday. But Joe Klanderman really backed that entire statement up on Thursday, where it is that takeaway thing is not luck. They are pushing really hard and practicing and coaching the fact that you need to punch that ball out, get the ball on the ground, and get that back, the possessions back to the offense. Because at the end of the game, I don't know, bring back one of those good old-fashioned John Madden quotes, but whoever has the most points at the end of the game wins the game. Not sure if you knew that one or not. But that's mob mentality. Mind on ball. Every rep, every strip, every swarm to the football is coached, it's demanded, and it's repeated. And if you want to go ahead and talk about the fact, because I think we are not far removed from us as fans questioning if these are the right coordinators in the right position to lead Kansas State in the future. And you could even go higher and say the head coach. You can go even higher than that and say the athletic department, the athletic director. We have gone to that far to question because of how slow this season has started. I'm very well aware of where we have gone with that narrative. But if you want to dive deeper and you want to look into this from maybe a magnifying glass, if you will, Joe Klanderman's doing a hell of a job. He's doing a hell of a job. And the fact that the Wildcats are leading the country in takeaways should be able to tell you that alone. The scary part, they're getting better at it as the year goes on. We're seeing it with TCU, all those turnovers. We thought that might have been the pinnacle of the defense for the entire season. And then entered the Sunflower Showdown, where they have a season high 4 takeaways. What does that mean for a sub 50-degree day in Manhattan against a team in Texas Tech who, yes, they are a top team. They are a college football playoff contender, but haven't won in Manhattan since 2008, the same amount of time that Kansas has not beat Kansas State that far ago. If you want to make the jokes about the Sunflower Showdown, saying Kansas hasn't won against Kansas State in 17 straight since 2008, it's been that long since Texas Tech has won in Manhattan. If they want to make it 9 straight wins for Kansas State against Texas Tech, this defense has to step up. Do you remember what this defense looked like in September against Army, against Iowa State, against Arizona, they looked gassed. They looked uncertain. Klanderman admitted that the scheme tweaks took time to settle, and that's something that we have to keep in mind. They went from a 3-man to a 4-man front, and they're also dealing with depth issues on that defensive front as well. We'll get to that in just a moment. But now they're flying. They're flying everywhere and getting turnovers and getting the ball back to Avery Johnson in the offense, who is not giving up turnovers. That is a success indicator that you are on the right track, and there's still plenty of time to get your season on the right path to finish out strong and maybe, just maybe, find yourself competing for a Big 12 championship. It's still possible. That goes away if you lose on Saturday. But if you win on Saturday, that narrative is going to change. And it's not just going to be Christian Rao on Locked On Kansas State telling you that. It's going to be national pundits that are going to start saying, hey, watch out for the Wildcats. Again, Kansas, they got the pressure with just 4 against the Jayhawks. They disguised it. They looked perfectly. Klieman even said that they showed man multiple times, but they were actually playing zone. He gave, it was more of I think it was a nod to Jalen Daniels on that, saying you had to do that with that type of player. You're going to have to do that with Baron Morton too, though. Baron Morton is a heck of a passer. He's a great quarterback. I think in the eyes of the Big 12, when you talk about some of the other quarterbacks, he doesn't really come up in conversation. And injury might be one of the reasons why that is, but he's a veteran player. Matt Wells speaks very highly of him for when he was back at Texas Tech. He's actually the one who recruited him. And I think that you have to do the same exact things and respect the ball and respect the pass of Baron Morton. And I think they are going to do that. Why it works, they're not just faster. Why this defensive turnovers mob mentality works, it's not just because they're faster. I think they're playing a lot smarter. And you can name that and be more comfortable in the scheme. You can say that because of coaching. But I think overall, and I think it might sound crazy, but I think the adversity that this team had to go through at the beginning of the season has made them a better football team now. I don't know if we'd be able to say the same thing about this defense. I mean, we might be feeling a little bit more warm and fuzzy inside if we had more wins under our belt, sure. But the adversity that this defense had to go through, I think, is what ultimately is making them a better defense now. If you agree with me, let me know in the comments. If you don't agree with me, let me know in the comments, because I want to hear your thoughts on that one. This week, that intelligence, I think, means more than ever. You can say what you want about Jalen Daniels, the fact that he never was able to beat the streak, the fact that you probably made him play his worst game ever in a Kansas Jayhawks uniform last week. Baron Morton is going to be the quarterback this week for Texas Tech. And Will Hammond out for the season, torn ACL. There's no backup plan for Texas Tech. It's him, whether his knee is 100% ready to go or not. So whatever limitations that Texas Tech is going to be forced to have with Baron Morton, Kansas State has to expose it right away and make him so uncomfortable. The fans need to be loud, not giving him any second chance. The Harleys need to be roaring. I mean, it's just got to be a huge day for Kansas State's defense all day long. Klanderman said this on Thursday, and he said their whole deal is tempo when talking about Texas Tech's offense, getting lined up, see the picture, and get the football where it needs to go. And he did mention, he said that there's probably going to be a lot less running when it comes to the quarterback play of Morton. He's not as mobile as Will Hammond was, the quarterback who's now injured for the rest of the season. And of course, with Morton also dealing with a knee injury. So Kansas State can't just be reactive. They have to disrupt the picture right away. That's where I'm going here. Pressure with 4. And they did a really good job getting pressure with 4 against Kansas. Can they do that with a Texas Tech team, a much better team than Kansas? And that's not just me saying that because it's Kansas State versus Kansas. No, this is a much better team. Texas Tech is seen as a college football playoff contender. Kansas is not in that picture. They got to get pressure with 4. They got to force Morton to hold it just maybe a second longer. And that's where those turnovers come into play. And if you make him make 1 or 2 mistakes, that could ultimately be the decision for Kansas State to win this football game. As long as Avery Johnson and the rest of their offense continues to not give up turnovers, something they've done a very good job at doing. If you can get 1 or 2, win that turnover margin by 1 or 2, that could be enough. I really do think that can be enough. I feel good. I feel really good about this game if this mob mentality continues to shine through. The mob mentality starts up front. But this week, the biggest statement might actually come from guys everyone doubted just a month ago, the secondary. Let's talk about that next, right here on Locked On Kansas State. But first, Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence throughout any season. And like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Speaking of impossible, a lot of people think impossible for Kansas State for Texas Tech. Well, guess what? It's about being irrelevant. Just like here, Mazda, move and be moved. Remember when Kansas State's corners were called, like, I don't know, the weakest link of the season, weakest link of the defense, weakest link of the entire team, the biggest liability in the program? The hugest concern of this program, I remember, and I actually was some that were screaming on the very rooftops of this episode, talking about, can the secondary live up to the hype? Can they fill the shoes of Jacob Parrish? Can they fill the shoes of Marquise Siegel? Will these transfer guys do what it takes to really get them back into being one of the best secondaries in the Big 12? Well, I'm now saying that with Zashon Rich and some of these other players, Gunnar Maldonado, Quay Moss, Donovan McIntosh, they're doing that. They're locking down the Big 12's best. Chris Klieman gave the insider story on how this group has flipped the script on Monday. It was doubled down by Joe Klanderman on Thursday as well. And it was really focused on a guy that I've brought up multiple times this season, more for his snap counts, just based on being his confidence level rising through the roof with these defensive staff, and that's Zashon Rich. You know, he came in, he learned behind the veterans like Jacob Parrish and learned from this and got himself through from special teams and then became a good player, showed up in the Rape Bowl, really had his breakout game there. And then now we're seeing him play almost every single defensive snap, and he's turning into a guy that's now setting the standard himself. Chris Klieman said that he studies the game, he's patient, he has great hips, a great center of gravity. We talk about coach speak all the time on this show. Is it actually coach speak? Is it actually real talk? That's coach speak for saying this kid's legit. And I love that about Zashon Rich, because every time I watch him, I get a good feeling behind him. He doesn't always drop the pass. He doesn't always, lock down the corner. He's not on his own island by any stretch of the imagination. If you look at his advanced data, sometimes he gives up almost all his receptions, but he's 9th in the country in pass breakups as well. So you got to love that. He plays most of the snaps by the defense. By no imagination is he the best corner in the world. But what I'm saying is that the progress that he's made has gave Kansas State a chance to get themselves to be competitive again in a season that many thought was over after the 3rd week of the year. So I really love what I'm seeing from Zashon Rich, and the rest of the group has followed. Zashon Rich is playing some of the most confident football of his career so far. The communication's sharper, the tackling has improved, and then you can even go farther than just the secondary. Des Purnell, what he's been doing, his recent dominance of just doing amazing things on the defense himself, from TCU to Kansas. And Joe Klanderman brought it up and said Purnell's recent dominance came from him not trying to do too much. He's even stopped forcing plays and started making them. And that's coming at a perfect time because Austin Romaine, one of the other star linebackers on the team, is dealing with a hand injury. And although he's out there, he's become maybe a little bit of a liability with his missed tackles. So Purnell stepping up, the secondary behind him stepping up, is giving everything you need for this Kansas State defense to shine. Against Texas Tech, though, this discipline is going to be everything. We're going to see Baron Morton try to throw the football pretty deep. It's going to happen multiple times. This is a very good passing offense. The secondary is going to be tested. This is the moment, in my opinion, where it could be, I think we are at an equilibrium point. We are at a very important time in the season for sure when it comes to continuing on your chances for Arlington, finding yourself potentially in, if you win this game, that you're guaranteed at least maybe a bowl game. You get yourself to 5-4, and you still have Colorado, Oklahoma State later on in the year. You feel pretty good if you get this win. But in the eyes of the secondary, I think that this is the game that if you can shut down Baron Morton, if you can shut down Texas Tech's offense, this secondary will no longer be seen as a liability for the rest of the season. This won't be the same narrative that even we had last year at moments with Jacob Parrish and Marcus Siegel, who found themselves in the NFL draft. There hasn't been a perfect secondary in Kansas State in a very long time. But I do think that they have the chance to shut down the narratives for the rest of the season if they can take care of business against Texas Tech on Saturday. Morton reads defense as well. I mean, Tech's receivers attack space. They do it very good. Quick off RPOs as well. If the corners overcommit, especially on those RPOs, they're going to be in trouble. Morton's going to make you pay. I think those RPOs are going to be really important for Morton because of his knee injury. I think he's going to be really focused on either giving it to the running back or finding quick hits with the wide receivers. His eyes are going to be very important. If you can find a way to manipulate his eyes, going back to that Kansas game where he thinks you're playing man and you're playing zone, that's where turnovers are going to happen because he's already limited with that knee injury and probably most likely won't be making himself mobile at all, something that he doesn't really rarely do, period. But he's basically going to take himself out of that consideration, especially since there's no backup plan. So I'm guessing the game plan is to keep Morton protected as much as possible, keep him in the pocket, try to do quick things like RPOs. And that's when the defensive secondary, the deception, playing man or looking like you're playing man, playing zone, the other way around, has to come into play. They have to stay patient. They got to mix looks. That can frustrate a quarterback like Morton, who lives on rhythm, as we mentioned with Joe Klanderman. And I think they're going to be living on rhythm completely because of the fact that he is not 100%. This game will test technique more than speed. It will test discipline more than talent. That's exactly what's going to happen this one. And this time, I think K-State's secondary has the technique to pass it and to succeed. And to be exactly what you need for the rest of the season, they have the tools. I believe in this secondary, and I believe they can get it done against Texas Tech. The back end is getting the headlines. Absolutely. I think they deserve the headlines. I think it's the most important thing. Disguising the coverage, finding themselves to shut down Morton, this offense. They deserve to be in the headlines this week heading up to the game. But none of this work without the chaos up front with the defensive line. And even without a guy like Tobias Sunsami, this line has quietly turned into one of the nastiest in the Big 12. How crazy is that? Let's finish up this episode and talk about that right here on Locked On Kansas State. But first, this episode of Locked On Kansas State is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping up the future of fitness with a brand new Peloton cross-training thread powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, reach peak performance. You name it, Peloton's got it. I love how the Peloton IQ system offers real-time strength coaching. It actually tracks your reps, suggests the right weights, and corrects your form. I mean, that's everything you need to get better, making every rep safer and smarter and watching your progress grow even better. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton cross-training thread today at onepeloton.com. Well, they said losing Tobias Sunsami would break Kansas State's defensive front. I really did think that was going to be a huge blow. And don't get me wrong, it is. It absolutely is. But instead, I think we're starting to see now that this defensive line is deeper, it's meaner, it's harder to block. Some players have stepped up, and I think that's almost made them better. Listen to what I have to think about that one on here. Hit that subscribe button right here on Locked On Kansas State, bringing you Wildcat coverage like nobody else. We are days away from game time, where I think Kansas State has a great shot at upsetting Texas Tech on Saturday. I'm going to give you my predictions in tomorrow's episode. Stand by for that. It's going to be a real doozy. So hit those bell notifications on YouTube if you haven't already to make sure you don't miss a single episode. Chris Klieman couldn't hide his pride on Monday when they were talking about the defensive line. He said, quote, "The whole D-line tackles, ends, everyone. It's spelling each other, keeping each other fresh." He loved what he saw from this. And I think it's three guys. I think it's three guys who have really shined, really stepped up, and not many people were talking about any of these three guys heading into the season before Big 12 Media Days. We got to Big 12 Media Days, and we started hearing a guy's name in Ryan Davis. Ryan Davis popped up out of nowhere. Not many people were tracking him. He had a great spring, got injured. Now he's healthy, and he's really been stepped up over the last few weeks. Jordan Allen continues to shine on the defensive line as well. And Malcolm Alcorn-Crowder has been a big disruption on that defensive line. Each one has answered the call. Each one has done what it needs to do to get this defense, humming. Is there a better word than humming? This defensive line has done a lot. The 4 sacks last week against Kansas helped them get the 4 turnovers. If that defensive line pressure doesn't happen against Kansas, if that containment against Jalen Daniels doesn't happen, if we don't have to see Jalen Daniels opening up his Headspace app and taking a deep breath on the sidelines because he's just getting absolutely beat up, does that happen with the defensive line? Absolutely not. That's got to happen again on Saturday. And I think that they're doing a really good job at doing that. Malcolm especially. Chris Klieman said he is disruptive as heck. I love that. Finally confident in the system. Really love what I'm seeing from Malcolm Alcorn-Crowder. He's not just holding ground. He is creating chaos, and chaos is what you need if you want to be a team that is seen to be as a Big 12 favorite, a college football contender, an AP top 25, an AP, 13th, 14th in the country. You got to find a way to create chaos if you want to beat a team like Texas Tech. Notice in all of this conversation here, until right now, and the only reason I'm bringing it up is just to show you this narrative, not once did I bring up the money of Texas Tech, because that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter one bit. Kansas State can still win this game. They have the talent to face and beat the team that they built, however way they built it. Kansas State can get this done. The timing couldn't be better, in my opinion, of this defensive line, because Texas Tech's backfield, it's no joke. Chris Klieman brought it up, called them a real 1-2 punch of the running backs, and they have behind one of the best offensive lines as well in the Big 12. This defensive line, if I think they can create chaos, if I think that they can be disruptive as heck, of what Chris Klieman said, if they want to continue doing this from Davis to Allen to Stufflebean to Alcorn-Crowder, they got to prove it this week against probably the toughest offensive line they've seen all season. And this is just going to be a test, because I don't know if this is going to be the best offensive line you see all season. That might be handed to Utah later on in the season, later on in the year. But if they can't get past Texas Tech's offensive line, then they're going to be in trouble in Utah. Of course, that's looking ahead, but this is one to really kind of get an idea of, okay, if they can take care of this offensive line, then maybe, just maybe, this defense has everything it takes to make that deep run that we're hoping for to finish off the year strong. Texas Tech's backfield is no joke. It's absolutely no joke. This game will be won or lost in the trenches. This defense will be the reason why Kansas State wins if they do on Saturday. It's not about the sacks this week. I don't think that matters. It would be nice to get the pressure, but I don't think you getting 4 sacks gets you to win 42-17 like it did in Lawrence last week. It's about collapsing the pocket just enough to throw Morton's timing off. It's all about rhythm. You could have 0 sacks on this, but if you get him hurried, if you get pressure on 50% of the snaps and some of those pressures turn into turnovers, that's how you win. That's how you win this Saturday against Texas Tech. It's about plugging run lanes so guys like Dickey can't turn 5-yard gaps into 20-yard bursts. And above all, it's about maintaining that mob mentality. Going right back to the beginning of this episode, it's about mind on ball. Every single snap against one of the toughest teams in college football. If Kansas State's, feel good. If K-State's front keeps focusing chaos, they keep forcing chaos, their corners stay disciplined, their rhythm, they get them offset, and those takeaways just keep coming in bunches, this team, of course, is going to win the game on Saturday. The best defense in the Big 12 the name might change, might be heading to Kansas State. If there was a trophy for handing who the best defense in the Big 12 was going to be, or at least even just a conversation, if it doesn't include the Wildcats after a upset win against Texas Tech on Saturday, then you probably shouldn't read that article, because I think it'll belong to them, not even just put them in the conversation. This group isn't living off emotion anymore, folks. They're living off identity. I love what Joe Klanderman has done over the last couple of weeks. He's made a liar out of me. He's made me eat my shorts, and I absolutely love what he's done from that. They are the Hunters, and I think they can make chaos happen on Saturday. Saturday's not just another game. It's a chance to prove that mob mentality. It's a chance to prove that they can make an upset possible in Manhattan. So, well, let me know what you think about this mob mentality. Do you think this defense can continue on? Do you think it's the reason they win the game? Does takeovers have to happen? Did I miss anything? Did I miss a key thing on this defense to why I think they could defeat Texas Tech on Saturday? Let me know your thoughts in the comment description below. Love to have you here as always. We'll be back here tomorrow. We're going to dive a little deeper on the offensive side because we went super defensive heavy tonight. And I'll give you my prediction on if Kansas State can upset the Red Raiders. Please like the video. Please subscribe. And we'll see you back here next time, right here on Locked On Kansas State.